Yo, the kids official sliding on the instrumental. Nordic combos, twist your mental like forbidden.
Peace to the public and power to the people. What up, world? 7-5, man. That's crazy.
Yup, 75 episodes.
It's been an honor, man. It continues to be an honor to join y'all, to welcome y'all to this space where the vulnerable are powerful and where the most gangster thing you could do is serve. This is the All the Way Live podcast.
Like my brother Miles Xavier has said, this is indeed the All the Way Live podcast. I'm your co-host, Welake, joined by my brother Miles Xavier, and what we do over here. Oh, and I can't go any further than giving a shout out to our boy Hassan on the ones and twos in the background, working the production. That's couldn't do this thing without you.
Big facts. Can't do this thing without you.
There you go. We're gonna keep speaking that into existence. And what we do over here on this show is give people carefully curated content for their cranium. My brother Miles and I are passionate about impact work. We're passionate about education, and we're passionate about giving y'all some fly things to be able to sound smarter on your friends with. You know what I'm saying? But we do it all for one purpose, man. We do it because we understand that people are going through it. We understand that depression levels are super high. We understand that mental health is at an all-time low. We understand that people are really suffering from a lot of life's ups and downs, and we aim to be a positive space that people can come here, feel energized, feel informed, and we do that on a weekly. Come on.
A weekly basis, man. You know what I'm saying? Really a daily basis that it takes to curate this, if I'm really being real. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always so appreciative of my brother and the work that it takes, the energy that he brings to this space. Exeter is in the building for sure, by way of Johannesburg, through my brother over there. And you already know what's going on this side. Chicago is in the building. This podcast is recorded on stolen land. This land belonged to the Potawatomi people. It was cared for by them, right? Looked after by them. And we're going to get into some environmental topics today too. So as much as ever, it's important to lift up the indigenous people that cared for this land and to acknowledge that the violence that was done to remove them from this land is inseparable from the violence that we see in this city today, this country today, in this world today, right? So always important to lift up love between Black and brown people the world over. And I love that that's how we know that the intro's over. So, hey, let's get into the show.
Yeah, I get that. But is we live, though? Is we, like, all the way live, though? You heard?
What we like to use our platform to do is to spotlight some of the people that are doing that good work, people that are based around community organization, being activists, and overall improving the people that are in need within their communities. This particular week, Miles, there was some sad news with the flooding that happened in Durban, South Africa, and KZN, where over 300 people died. It's 400 people is the last number that is the number that I heard last. It's quite sad, and so because of that, we want to be able to spotlight Gift of the Givers, and shout out to our boy for putting this up right now. And we're looking at some of the images that were occurring. You know, it's really sad to see.
Yeah, man, it's a reminder to all of us that all of this, right? Safety, security, it's precarious, it's precious, right? I mean, so much of what we see in the news will show you that your situation could change overnight. And so on that level, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude to know that, you know, you're safe, my people in South Africa are safe. But I'm also overwhelmed with sadness for everybody who's really, really going through it because of this flooding. So it's always good to, in these moments, you know, where you feel like something's happening far away and you don't know what to do, to have an outlet to know that you can do something, right? You can give your time, you can give your cash, you can give you can help spread the word, you can help share information. That's what we're trying to do. And if you would like to donate, you can check out Gift of the Givers that we got right here on the screen, man.
For sure. And when you want to be able to put into context what happened in Durban, if you've seen the favelas in Brazil and how those are built on like these very precarious slopes that are subject to mudslides. Mudslides is also something that happens in favelas and in Venezuela as well, where you have these large amounts of people. Unfortunately, it's always the most destitute of people that end up being in those positions and like getting and being victims. So again, it was one of those instances where you had informal settlements on on unstable land. This happens. It's not the first time this happens in Durban, and that just it adds to the sadness of it because nobody who has a choice would build a house on there, you know. So it's some of the lowest of the low that are living in that area. But because of that, when something like this happens, hundreds of them pass.
Man, that's heavy. Um, and never to detract from the gravity of that. But when you say this isn't the first time that this has happened, um, when we have so many issues across the world that we can, kind of that we can relate to this, right? That look like this, that look like a lot of infrastructure destroyed, a lot of people's homes and households and lives destroyed. When this seems to happen in a lot of places all over the world, it can feel overwhelming. And I think we have to kind of make a shift that, like, rather than being surprised and shocked and horrified every time something like this happens, I think we need to build into our life like a capacity to be like, yeah, like disasters and tragedies happen all over the world all the time. What is our, just built it in, bro. Just like we built in taking care of ourselves, just like we built in our professional lives. What is our global contribution life look like, rather than trying to figure out, go into the closet and put on my environmentalist cape when something happens, or go put on my racism cape, or go put on my, you know what I mean? Well, what does it look like to integrate a care for those things throughout our entire life, so that we can grieve these things and be human in these circumstances, but also already kind of understand and know how we're going to move forward, you know what I mean, in our own lives, and what our channels of contributing to efforts to help people are on the regular. Emphasis on regular.
Emphasis on the regular. The difficult part about that, Miles, is that we're just in a time now where there's so much news that's happening on a regular basis that it's quite hard for us to even stop for a moment and be able to pick up on what actually matters, what doesn't matter. In Brooklyn this weekend, we also had a shooting on the subway, right? This gentleman who he throws a gas canister in there. Luckily, last I read, there was no casualties that happened. When I took a trip down to Illinois on a bus, I remember particularly, I had a panic attack on the bus. Right, I had a panic attack on this bus, and granted, at the time, unbeknownst to me, Miles, those there were edibles that were way too strong that might have contributed to this panic attack. That being said,
you made it out the other side, though. You know what I'm saying?
I made it out on the other side.
And I wouldn't give nobody nothing that I wouldn't do myself.
One day we'll get into what happened when you did do it yourself.
That's right. Yeah, it didn't go well for me either, but I did it. Listen, go ahead.
But that being said, though, I had this panic attack while I was on a bus in the US because I thought somebody might get up with a gun and start shooting. So something like that, seeing something like that happen in New York is so personal. That's so personal. That's literally one of my fears, and one of the things that make it difficult to want to live in the US is just that looming fear of like, this society is actually kind of crazy.
Big facts is crazy. Big facts, the society is in crisis, right? Structurally. And as we look around, we're starting to see things crumble that can't be fixed without removing things that we haven't spent a lot of time thinking about what our lives look like without. But I want to go back to kind of what you said about like it being difficult to make sense of what to pay attention to and what not to, because you're absolutely right. But I like to think that that's what we do. I like to think that people can think of the different spaces in their lives, like All the Way Live, right? That try to take in some of this information, try to process it, allow you to connect with it on a human level so you can understand what resonates with you, what do you actually want to do something about, and then have channels, Mandulo Foundation, right, to move through and to figure out, like, okay, that you trust, right? Trust that you can move whatever can advise you on, where you might donate, where you might put in time, where you might put in effort, communities around that. So you're not only getting it from one place, but I like to think that there are communities that can support that issue and help people think through and parse through all of the different things that are happening and going on. We try to, and make it look fly. You know what I'm saying?
We definitely tried to make impact work look fly. We definitely try to make information sharing look fly. And one of the things that people do want to be able to know about things that people want to make sense out of is these super high gas prices.
Bruh. I'm hurt, bruh.
Double bruh episode. That should have been the episode. Bruh. Full stop. Bruh.
I'm wounded, bruh. My pockets, man. My pockets. Listen, and I was thinking about copping the Jeep, you know what I'm saying? Pop them doors off right on Lake Shore, you know what I'm saying? South Shore, Stony Island, wilding with it. No, can't have no Jeep. Economic. I'm about to get a smart car. It's ridiculous out here, man. These gas prices is nuts, man. It's nuts.
So over time, since the pandemic has happened, we've all woken up to different realities of sorts, right? So much has changed over time. But one of the things that's sharply becoming ridiculous is these gas prices. It is absolutely ridiculous how expensive petrol is. I'm fortunate right now that I'm relying on public transport. So quite frankly, I don't feel the pinch, but I hear it.
Yeah, y'all know where you hear from. Hear from me, because I feel the pinch. I'm pinched. This is a literal picture that y'all seeing now. Shout out to the YouTube audience of my gas. It's on E. I'm charging y'all for gas I'm charging the podcast for gas. Y'all didn't know that. I'm factored in. It's gonna be part of the background. I need that on my payroll. You ask what's on my rider? Gas money. Listen. Big facts. But like it's wild, and we thought it was necessary to bring this one to the podcast because this is one that affects all of us, man. Even if you're not paying for it at the pump, because you're driving, somebody in your family might. Also, it drives up the prices of public transportation, drives up the prices of Ubers. Everybody take Uber. If you don't have Uber on your phone, I don't know what to tell you. It affects a lot of us. So I think it was important to bring this and really get into like why though. At least tell me why. At least let me have some type of inkling as to why I'm paying so much for gas. Sway, why?
Now there's a host of different reasons for why gas prices are so particularly high at the moment, and there's a lot of things that you can Google in order to find us talking about that, because we have been exposed to that energy sector, right? And personally speaking, I've had a cool experience of being able to be in some of the inner workings of how the oil and gas industry operates and kind of why prices end up becoming like they do. Something that a mentor of mine in the oil and gas space once said. He said everything about gas. He said everything about gas is. He said no. So he said oil is about petrol. That's what he said. No, oil is politics. Oil is politics. Petrol is politics. Oil is politics. Petrol is politics, and that actually makes up pretty much how the majority of the industry goes. what's important to understand is that there are two different parts of the oil industry. There is the side that is bringing it from the ground, and then there's the side that is taking it and putting it into your cars. So between where it comes from in the ground and when it gets into your cars, there's some important things that happen in between that. A lot of it, which is politics, that cause prices to either go up or go down.
Dang. Supply, demand, politics. Okay, so politics like Russia, right? That's what they saying. That's what they keep telling me, is that it's a war in Russia. That's why gas prices are high. How factual is that?
Now, according to the Russia gas logs that I investigate now, okay, I had to do that, but it's important. What is important to understand though is there was a heavy reliance on gas production from Russia. So the U.S. buys about 2 million barrels a day from Russia, essentially, right? And so one of the main buyers of Russian petroleum is also Germany, which relies heavily on it. Almost over 40% of their gas actually comes from Russia. So when we look at the impact of the war on Russia, is that obviously there was a lot of sanctions that happened, and in order for Russia to utilize its petroleum industry and its gas production as a tool, they've been squeezing essentially the amount of production that they're doing, who they're selling to. They're being sanctioned on one end, which makes it very difficult to be able to sell product. So the US in particular and the world did rely on Russian gas. So now that it is being limited, that's part of the reason why we're seeing the super sharp increase in the prices.
Mm, mm. So back to supply. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has limited the supply of gas a little bit. And if you can't tell, my voice has gotten a little bit lower because now we're moving into the segment of the show where, can we talk about where, if we can't get it from Ukraine or from Russia, who else might have that gas? You know what I'm saying?
So what's been interesting is that Joe Biden now he recently mandated that the largest tap into the US oil reserve should be opened up in order for gas prices to come down. What that also means is that now they're incentivizing oil drillers in order to utilize those fields and actually start producing more oil. So it's kind of at a place now where we've taken this great step forward in what we have thought of to be a lean towards the greener side. Then you get this information with Joe Biden saying unload the reserves, flood the market, produce more.
And the US has gone to expedient, like very, very long lengths to get their own, market for oil going, including investing a lot in fracking, which is, environmentally, when we're thinking about the transition to renewable energy sources, it's a whole conversation in itself. But so yeah, we've got our own domestic supply and resources, but there's a third party in this, man, that you know what I'm saying, that moves in the background and has a lot of control over what goes on, if you will.
Definitely. And I was going to be able to play some cartel music right now. So just so we can get into our Godfather-esque portion of the show when it comes to the people who are actually in power with these things, right? Now, Miles Xavier, I don't know if you know this, but I went to the OPEC summit in 2020, and I was there. Saw it happen live. It was an incredible experience. Actually, met His Excellency Bakindo, who is the deputy president of OPEC, the Secretary General of OPEC. So I've had a bit of experience being able to see how these things work, and it's actually super interesting. But in fact, it is true that the political decisions that are made there are all pretty much like war games almost. It's like who's sitting where, which seat are they sitting at? You know, having them wait for which country is going to sit down at the table. How close are they with the president? Are they sending the minister or are they sending the deputy? How long are they in the meeting for?
Whoa. See. This is when the live ties, right? This is when you're speaking a coded language right now. You got to break it down for the people, man. This organization that operates, that dictates so much of the market, OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Tell us more.
Precisely. So um, essentially, following the Gulf War, there was a clear indication that oil prices would run almost rampant if there wasn't a collection of the largest exporting oil countries to get together and live and almost balance out the type of oil prices that are at play. So what happens is that they get together and then they'll say, listen, these are the prices right now. This is what's happening in the market. We all need to be able to band together at a certain price, at a certain production level. And that's how we'll control the prices. What is unfair about the setup is that there are some countries, a la Saudi Arabia, is that they have an ability to be able to produce these prices produce petrol at a much lower price. So they're in a position to be able to play hardball. And if the rest of the countries are in a place where they need a decrease in demand, they might be able to hold out. And something similar is playing right now, where you're seeing a lot of these countries calling for an increase in the supply of petroleum, but they're saying they might not necessarily want to be able to take that because that might allow different entry points, more people to profit off of this. So even the people that are controlling these high prices, they also don't want them to get too high. It's all mind games.
Yeah, the cartel is pulling the strings, you know what I'm saying? And we've seen it evolve, right? When the pandemic hit, everybody stopped going to work. You know, the demand for oil and gas goes way down. That hits their pockets. Now everybody coming back. They got long memories. The cartel has a long memory. You dig me? So they're not just about to let up. Everybody said, okay, we need this, we need that supply. It takes a long time for the market to ramp up and ramp down. So they had to ramp down for the pandemic, adjust to that drop in demand. And now that the demand is up again, they squeezing. They see the market. They see what's going on with Russia. They squeezing, you know? They're not allowing more oil to go into the market. Cartel move how the cartel move. And so I thought it was just important to bring OPEC to the forefront for people who are standing at the pump wondering why their gas is so high, right? Wondering what's really going on. I thought it was important to, bring into these supply and demand and these geopolitics, right? Appreciate you as our energy expert for coming in and filling in, giving us some more additional information. It's still too high though.
It's way too high. There's no explaining that does not take away how high these prices of gas actually are. It actually makes you have to reconsider the type of friends that you keep around and the type of people you want to see on the daily. It's like, yo, if you live too far, this relationship might actually not work out.
You might have to, it might have to chill. Speaking of relationships not being too far, the U.S. got to be looking at that relationship with Canadian oil like, hey, buddy. You know what I'm saying? I think we import already like 4 million barrels from them a day, but they looking like if we go to if anything turns sour with Canada, the U.S. is looking struck.
So what's difficult for us to have to accept when it comes to the oil conversation is realizing that in truth, a sustainable future going forward is one where we're utilizing a fair amount of all of the resources that are available to us. Now, we've mined oil to a point where we've mined and burned it to a point where it's become detrimental to the environment. But to completely cancel it is kind of like saying defund the police, right? It makes sense for solving a particular issue, but when you look on the grander scale of things, it might not necessarily be the answer to it, because petroleum is in everything. Petroleum jelly is almost in everything. The byproduct of oil isn't so KY is it KY or KYC jelly?
I
Which
did
one is
not
it?
want to think about the police being in my petroleum jelly. That is too much. That is petroleum too close. That is, you do not patrol me in that way. That's messed up. I don't know if you meant to do that, but I hear you. It's a long term. There has to be so many things put in place for us to alleviate our reliance upon petroleum, right? And so when we think about solar, when we think about wind energy, when we think about all the alternatives that we have to think about our investment in those and our willingness to to speak to that investment through our own pockets and the things that we invest in, right? Not everybody's in the position to buy an electric vehicle, but what are the ways in which that we can speak through our whatever political voice we have, towards alleviating this reliance on oil and petroleum.
If anything, this the way that the oil prices are moving should indicate how politically tied the world is together. That you can have a war happen in Ukraine, directly impact the price of oil around the world. And then when you take into consideration things like Russia is now selling that oil to India at a discount and selling that oil to China as a discount, who's then putting it back into the market at higher prices, it does then start to get into the place where you're hearing about all the corruption that usually happens and the fat cats getting fed. It speaks a lot more towards what people hate about the oil and gas industry.
Man, and even if it is, we've spoken already a lot throughout this episode about how overwhelming it is, all of the different things that are going on, all of the different moving parts that affect these issues that affect our pockets, right? Like, you brought into so many different areas of geopolitics that are putting pressure on gas prices. We could even go to diplomacy with Iran failing, right? Like, we could go to so many different things. To me, it helps to have these conversations and to start to put together a picture of the world that makes sense. There's actually fewer things going on to me in my brain when I understand the connection between the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what's happening with my gas prices than when I just see them as two different separate things. So I appreciate you for kind of helping us make the connection to those today.
For sure. And there's nothing like going to these OPEC meetings. Like I was telling you, brother, the level of mental chess that is being played is very high. It's very high, all the way down to what is being said, what isn't being said. You have folks giving the whisper on the side and then making decisions on the table. It's quite intriguing and interesting to see. But that is literally how the prices of oil are determined to a large extent.
Yeah, no doubt. They see it coming too. They see the energy transition coming. That's another reason for the squeezing. You know what I'm saying? They saying, hey, they trying to get their bread while they can. You know what I mean? They see this. They couldn't get it during the pandemic, not how they wanted to. Now they see what the future is, and they see, Elon Musk. They must be mad as a mug, boy. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting. It affects the stock market too. Crazy. I know you know a little bit about that.
Definitely impacts stock market. On that point, tis the season for wallet squeezing is my contribution for the episode of the day. Tis the season for wallet squeezing.
Yeah, we got an abundance of titles, really. When it's really clicking, we got an abundance of titles that we stay coming up with, yo.
Definitely, man. As on that point, as you were saying about the stock prices, there are some interesting things that are happening on the stock prices when it comes to oil futures and the impact on the rest of the energy market. What is happening is that fistfuls of money are definitely being made at the moment at these premiums. The U.S. is about to begin getting into a place where they're producing more oil than they have in the last 2 years, based on what Biden is saying, which is kind of opposite what they came in with regarding green energy. What he calls it is a wartime bridge, to just get over a wartime bridge, but something about exceptions always tend to make a very specific handful of people very wealthy in the US.
Big facts. Big facts. Join us next time to figure out how to get your hands on some of that cash.
But you know who's not getting their hands on some of that cash?
Bruh. Teachers.
So here we are again. What's happening, world? The future, our future is being undermined again. And this time it's happening because the man is chasing teachers away from schools. So a report recently came out that said nearly half of teachers plan to quit by 2027. Miles, what does this mean?
It means it's gonna be a whole bunch of little dumb motherfuckers running around.
Yeah, Miles, my mom watches the show. Sorry, Mom.
What we gonna do without our teachers, man? For real. It's like it's crazy. Like shout out to Miss Ginsburg, shout out to Miss Linda, man. Like some of the most fundamental people in my life have been teachers. And I've never felt like, even as a kid, I had like this vague understanding that teachers don't get the respect that equates to the responsibility that we entrust them with. You feel
at all. So much so that there is a 20% difference in how much teachers are getting paid compared to people who are educated at the same level.
It's jacked up. And so as a result of low pay, as a result of a lack of work-life balance, like a lot of people, I think, because teachers, at least in the US, get summers off, feel like teaching is easy, right? Not knowing that folks are working throughout the summer to compensate that pay, not knowing that throughout the school year that having to grade all of these little kids' papers is like this is heavy, bro. And to have to deal with parents, to have to invest in each of these kids, I'm telling you, it's nuts, man. I have a whole bunch of homies that are teachers that will really let you know. And dealing with the youth on the ground in the community, it's a whole task to provide the appropriate amount of care, right? So with all of that weight, half of England's teachers said that they plan to quit in the next year. A fourth of teachers in Texas are likely to leave as of 2021. This is a global issue. You know what I'm saying? Like retention for new teachers in the United States is under 40%, which means after 1 year, they're not really staying like that. That's nuts. That's crazy.
That's almost the prison retention rate high.
Bruh. In researching this, I'm looking through video after video, article, blog post after blog post of teachers that are saying that they're fed up and that are coming to the table with the same story of pressure from administration to prepare students and teach to tests, to as they eliminate services that the school provides, not prioritizing the safety of teachers in classrooms, like to the point where I'm looking through this stuff. I'm seeing students walked out. Imagine how upset the students got to be that the teachers coming in haggard, just you know what I'm saying, just not with it, just tired. You know what I'm saying? All right, kids, the teachers, for the students to be like, all right, we walking out. Mr. Johnson can't take it anymore. He slumped over his desk. He gave us all B pluses. We know we cheated.
We know we cheated. It's sad, but it's true because a lot of teachers do take on more roles than being a teacher. They are a counselor for students. They are a father and a mother for some students. They're checking on students' well-being. They're therapists for students. A lot of kids come from very difficult situations at home. and school is the only place where they can get away from it. And each teacher tries to take on a kid on a person to person basis. My mom was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. I remember staying up late helping my mother grade books into the night, grade papers into the night. And I remember her picking up some of the kids and bringing them to the house and feeding them and extending an arm over towards them, so much so that some of them right now still call her mom. All to say that a teacher's heart and somebody that goes into this field is usually very open and sympathetic to the people that they're teaching. And so when teachers are leaving, it's not because the teachers don't care anymore. It means that something is pushing them out of it. And what something you highlighted, Miles, is the fact that these teachers are saying that they just burnt out. They're saying they're tired. They're burnt out from the system.
Word. And so some of the things that we can think about, as you mentioned, teachers end up playing so many roles, right? The role of a social worker, of a mentor. We can think about other specialty staff that can be implemented into schools, like mental health professionals, right? Counselors, different people that can help address behavioral issues and take that burden off of teachers. I just feel for him, man. I feel for him, especially in the context of COVID, especially in the context of like just imagine coming to class, right? And you're trying to connect with students, especially when we talk about students from a lower social economic class, when we talk about students that have other issues going on, and you have a connection to this student, you're trying to teach them something. They have so many issues that they have to deal with that they shouldn't have to deal with as a kid. How are you supposed to connect with that person and to teach them? Now put that person in a position of being burnt out and to the point where they have to leave. Now think about the student's experience, right? They see a revolving door of teachers. None of them, even the ones that really do care, are pushed out of the system, don't have an opportunity to connect with them, right? How are they supposed to feel like they have any type of support system? Schools are, for most people, their first interaction with the state, the first interaction with the structural institution. What type of experience are we giving them when we treat the people that we put in charge we put kids in their care like they're not professionals? We don't treat them like doctors. We don't treat them like lawyers.
No.
What
And
we on?
it's hard not to look at that from a payment, a gender pay gap, right? And which is something that we explored on this show before, which is that predominantly, at least in the U.S. school system, over 100 years, the school system started in 100 years, and before that was being taught by men. And the premise under which it was switched and then became largely a female-dominated industry was an incentive that it was going to be paid less, right? So it was an opportunity for women to enter to the workforce paid at a discounted rate. So once over that time, that's why we have seen a prevalence in schools and teachers being underpaid so heavily, because it is ingrained in that. And still, even now, you have a majority of people who are in the teaching field, predominantly women. So it goes back to ask us about, what are we going to do, understanding that now us not paying these people enough and the way that the school organized system is treating these people is making them leave. What happens to the kids that can do online schooling? What happens to the kids that do not have access to internet and things like that?
Word. And in some places you hope that there are community safety nets for those kids, but in a lot of places there aren't, right? So we try to be that. And then the direct, I guess, conversation about teachers, I think there's a through line of organizing, right? And organizing is everything from understanding issues, acknowledging the different issues that put people at risk, especially that place youth at risk, right? And forming systems and structures against them. One such structure, right, that has served, at least in the city of Chicago, the teachers, is the Chicago Teachers Union. Referencing back to our last episode about Amazon's first union, shout out to them boys in New York. And it's a tool, right? It's a system, it's a community of teachers that have gotten together to negotiate on their own behalf, and to keep it a whole being, they've been giving the Chicago Public Schools Department hell. You know what I mean? Especially through COVID, advocating on behalf of teachers, walking out, shutting school down when they didn't want to return to classes. That's power. Now it's controversial, and you know, there's always going to be parents that need their kids in school when teachers are trying to pull out and trying to negotiate. There's always going to be different issues in areas of conflict, but being able to organize, being able to bring people together, and negotiate on the behalf of everybody that has, if you have the kids in mind, this is one of those tools. So I encourage people to look again more into unionizing, more into these different ways that you can form structures, to give people a voice.
Shout out to our producer pulling these pictures up for us to be able to check out, man. Giving context and imagery to what it is we're discussing. And it's you're right, Miles. You're right. It's we're not necessarily seeing and looking at our teachers the way that we're supposed to. I don't When you realize just how much things have changed since COVID, recently hearing about the cost of living crisis that's happening, right? Cost of living crisis, which means that there's an increase in the price of gas, there's an increase in interest, and there's an increase in consumer goods all at the same time, which is happening across the board. Added to the fact that over COVID, since May of 2020, double the people in poverty, right? There's been a double in the people that have been led to poverty, from 250 million to 500 million people that are now in abject poverty, a double increase in that. So, and then also the wealth inequality gap has also increased twicefold. So it really has been, we've been shot into this wild fast forwarding of events that are happening, and it has spat out those at the bottom in a way worse place than they are, and those at the top in a better position that they are. There's pros and cons on each. There's no pros about actually the bottom getting spat out, but all to say that even with the teaching situation, it's going to be the kids that, it's not going to be the wealthy neighborhoods that feel this impact on teachers leaving because they're getting compensated and whatever the case is the people at the bottom. And I think it kind of speaks to what we're seeing post COVID.
Man, we've talked a lot this episode. Man, I wish I remembered your contribution exactly. The season of wallet squeezing, is that what you said?
Tis the season of wallet squeezing.
Yo, the squeeze coming from all directions. Big facts. Like, come from the gas prices, it's come from the prices of food. I have never been more loyal to Aldi, bro. Ain't no more cute little grocery store visits through the Marianos or the Kroger, none of that, where it's, oh, look at all these aisles and stuff. Nah, we strictly Aldi, shopping out the boxes. We put a quarter to get the cart. What you know about that? We really saving cash on this. Like, it's serious out here trying to keep these bills down, man. And it's rough. It's rough for people. Like, there's more speed traps and speed cameras out here in the streets than ever. Not only are people broke, the city's broke. So the city trying to get their money up, running up tickets on people. You know what I mean? People are hurting. People are in tough positions, and we're reaching a point where something's got to give. So I think our voice in this space is always towards organizing, towards community resources, but people are getting desperate out here, and we're going to see that evolve into a lot of different behaviors that are detrimental to us, right? So rather than looking shocked when we see what people do when their back is against the wall, we got to start thinking about how we can move around, you know?
For sure. And we have some from the comments, man. Shout out to Johnny joining us on the comments. We appreciate that. This is an open conversation. Everybody jump on in. Question is there a link between the double of poverty against the wealth gained by those at the top? It is. And that's the correlation. In the similar amount of time that we've seen a double in poverty, the most amount of billionaires have been created during the pandemic time. That speaks to an unprecedented level of the types of wealth that have been created. Also, it's largely brought on by the fact that the largest cash injection was done over the COVID period, right? Where banks were just printing money out. So it's ironic that the time where most of the money is being printed out, there's also an increase in the people in poverty.
And that link is also legislation is a huge part of that link, right? It's not a coincidence that the bills and the pieces of paper, these political instruments that dictate the rules and lack thereof that companies have to abide by are made super complicated for the average person, the less than higher educated person to understand. And so as we're going through this pandemic, as we're going through all of this stuff, these legislators are passing through the political process all of these legislations that make life harder for us as people and make life easier for corporations to operate, make it easier for corporations to exploit workers. And as individuals, we have less and less of a voice. If you just look at the let me speak just about the US. If you just look at the way that tax breaks are laid out for corporations versus individuals, you can see whose health is prioritized, right? And I love that I'm being served alley oops right here by the comment section. If we can't rely on the government to intervene, then who do we look towards? We look towards ourselves. We look towards these government knows it's exploiting us, right? So it does all of this stuff behind the scenes and it passes this legislation, and in our face it says we're going to put in all of these opportunities for people to get grants and to get money to do all these experimental things, and we're going to put money into all of these systems of community support. We have to hold them accountable to that, and it's our responsibility to actually put our effort and time into that, right? We have to form coalitions of people that are about people, right, and build from there rather than just deciding, okay, well, we just gonna get our own money and participate in the system, right? We have to form our own groups. My bad, I'm dominating the conversation, but wanted to get in on that.
Forming our own groups and taking care of our mental health. I do not, it's sad to see teachers walk away, but if the teachers are walking away from this job because they're claiming it is bad for their mental health, which is the story that we hear across the board, then by all means protect your mental health, right? By absolutely all means. And one way that is even possible for that is to air out your grievances, finding a place where you can actually express what is happening in that company.
Yeah, solidarity, right? So one such place is Blind, right? It's this new app that's basically the evil twin of LinkedIn, right? So it's where people come specifically to not only air workplace grievances, though there is a lot of that going on, also to have conversations about things like unionizing, about things like documenting issues and finding ways to hold their own administration accountable, right? And so this is exactly the type of thing that we need to lean into, is right, figuring out where are the people that are about what we're about, where are the people that see the possibilities in what we can build, right? That's what we're constantly told. We can't do it without the government. We can't do it without their structure. We can't do it without, like, nah, get you a Zway, get you a Hassan, listen to the All the Way Live podcast and get on your grind. You know what I'm saying? We can and figure out, find your community. This is one such space. Find that space and believe in yourselves.
I tell you what, corporate is lucky that this Blind thing came out after I quit the corporate life, because I would have been lighting up those messages, boy.
Going off.
I'd have been lighting those messages. They would have heard. They would have known it was coming from me. I would have said, "Side by swear."
Big facts, man. And it's. I actually just want to jump. I'm not even in corporate. I want to jump in this just to see the type of stuff that's going on, man. I'm inspired by collectives, and I'm inspired by the type of ingenuity. They're gonna try and shut it down. I know. I bet you one thing. I bet you they better not catch you on Blind at Amazon. You better not be on the clock at Tesla with Blind on your phone. You better not. You better not.
You find yourself holding a poster card protesting in rightful. Or I tell you what, you better not camp out at your office space and write on Blind that you're doing it either. That does not count as a protest.
Hey man, we not the gatekeepers for protests. We are grateful for our audience, man. I appreciate the comment section. It's all love, baby. I fucks with y'all heavy, man. Where we at with it?
The people's favorite part of this show. Damn it, they want a specific thing that we do, and we are gonna give it to them. We got double the reviewing to do. So much music, so much music.
How I forget about the double review, man? Let's get it. We at with it, man. Listen, we know it's been a lot of fire that's been coming out. We've been trying to make balance between reviewing some of the important content, films. Check out that Rothaniel review. You know what I'm saying? Check out that Bust Down review. But we had to get back to the music. Had to get back to the hip hop. Had to give y'all a heaping helping of that hard stuff, though.
7220 7220 by Durk. Man, Mr. Miles Xavier, you are local Chicago representative. You are local Chicago baby. You are our correspondent. What does this album mean for the streets?
This is a win from the perspective of somebody that so many people can identify with, maturing in the game. And as we know all too well, not everybody gets there, right? This is an artist. Durk has had time to experiment, to be loved with what he's putting out, to be hated with what he's putting out, and to come to really have carved out a true space of his own identity in the game, right? Like this album for me is, no matter what style of Durk you like, there's songs that you won't even like that you got to respect. This is another level for him, to me.
What I enjoy most about Durk on this album and the progression that you see with him is that his vulnerability, bro. His vulnerability. And every time you listen to Durk, whether it's on Voice of the Heroes or you hear him on a feature, he's pushing the vulnerability aspect of it. Regardless of what you can say about Durk is about his different bags, he pushes that vulnerability aspect of it, and it is very reminiscent of Future. But if I'm listening to like the first song Started From, telling that whole story about what it's like to grow up impoverished in Chicago, what that feels like, having to not be able to have food, sharing clothes, sleeping on the floor, having that be your first single off of this album too, just says so much about his confidence in his content and what he's able to give. And it's quite frankly very dope.
It's super dope. It's super dope. And it's Durk has his own sons now in the industry, right? He has his own people that are following him in this lane. And it's really dope to see him like hone his craft to the point where I could hear in his songs that, like, even if you remove the auto tune, it sound better now. You feel me? Like he knows what he's doing, putting together hooks. He knows what he's doing, crafting an experience for people. And everything from the sequencing of this album is the best I think he's ever done, right? To move from Started From to Head Taps, and then to go to Aha, I think just shows a thoughtfulness about the listening experience, that it's a maturity in the game. Then you skip down the track list to something like What Happened to Virgil. And when I was looking at that track, I was like, man, what is this? What is this perspective? Speaking on the dead is always, is ways to do and not to do that. To be able to take a subject like that and craft lessons for the streets from it. I like
one off of that. What Happened to Virgil, and where you see how Durk is really, where you see how Durk really understands how well he does what he does. At the beginning of that song, he's like, watch this. He's like, watch this hook. Like, watch me put this thing together. They're gonna love this. I think that's his actual words. He goes, oh, they're gonna love this. And then he gets that hook, and lo and behold, it becomes viral very quickly. So even from the perspective of being able to be catchy, of being able to be relevant with the sounds and saying, being able to say something that you can repeat a lot, I think he outdoes himself on this album. Dirk's just been on such a consistent tear. Even when he jumps into his R&B bag, the feature that he has on Summer Walker's album, versatility, dude. The versatility is quite crazy. And the more you look at it, you think to yourself, could Durk become the next Thug?
I heard a lot of Thug on this album. And I don't even want to put that on him. I think he can go. I think Durk is gonna carve out something that we haven't never seen before, and it might not be the flashiest thing in the world, but I think he's gonna continue to carve out a unique space in the game. And it seems like with not a lot of concern for what other people are doing. The drill movement is at the height of the drill movement. My man took a left turn and started going super melodic, right? Like this is clearly somebody who understands and has their own creative direction, and I'm following him. I'm interested to see where he's going next. I've slowly gone from somebody who appreciated Durk as part of the landscape to somebody who's actively looking forward to his next projects. Some of his favorites for me, the They Forgot mixtape, uh, Signed to the Streets 3. Like there's some. I'm more and more on board.
Off of some of the mixtapes that we've enjoyed, definitely OTF, the OTF series. I'm looking at the comments. Correction, pretty sure that's Vaughn at the beginning saying they're gonna love this. That's true. That's true. Thanks for the correction on that point. Some of the standouts on this album, Aha, for sure. Started from What Happened to Virgil is dope. Dior, love Dior Banks. I thought it was really, really cool. Please be sure to let us know in the comments whichever track on this album that you did dig. I'm really, really, I'm finding myself going back to this album more so than a lot of other ones for the tracks that I like. One thing for sure is that this dude is in pain.
Word, man. And some of those songs are some of my favorites. Head Taps, Smoking and Thinking. Yeah,
Petty 2, no interviews.
Petty 2 is a great example of like this man knows how to take a concept and deliver on a concept now too. Like it's different. It's different. And I love the experiment with Broadway Girls is this just funny to me. It's funny. It just shows that he's comfortable and he's again just not concerned with anybody else thinks of his creative direction. Blocklist, another dope concept track. This is fire. I get this a 4 out of 5 to me. And excited for everything Durk got coming next.
You know what it is? 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5 for the Durk review. And if you want to see some of our other reviews, go ahead and check out the review playlist on YouTube. We got all of our music reviews on there. We got all of our movie reviews on there. We do it because people love that. That's the part of the show that has the most amount of views. So as long as y'all looking, we'll keep on cooking.
I'm gonna just let that breathe. I'm gonna just
something else that needs to be let breathe. I feel like you're about to get into.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Speaking of things that we love, that we like, that we enjoy a great deal, man, things that we feel. Last one's left. 42 Dugg and ESTG.
You, Miles Xavier. Sometimes you'll be enjoying a lovely day, and out of nowhere, the hip hop gods will come down and deliver you with an album that it knows you're gonna love. And for that, we thank God for hip hop.
Big facts. Big facts. Now I did that thing with this one. You know when knowing it's something special, something you wasn't expecting, something that you know that you gonna like, you can't hold off. You wait for the right. I didn't go straight to it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I'm gonna wait till the right time when I'm in my bag. When I got one rolled. This one delivered, man. This one, I heard a little bit from you that it was right, that it was like that. It's really like that. These are some of the most two of the hottest, and I think hot is the right word to describe them, right? Of all the things that you can be in the game, they are the hottest right now. Putting music out. You know what I mean? we don't gotta go to the 42 versus ESTG conversation. We can enjoy them as brothers for a second before we go there. Um, I think that they complement each other really well. I think this is they have very different styles, but they deliver on over this hard instrumentation really well, and they both each have something more interesting to say about gangster shit than the average rapper.
Which is a skill on its own, which is a whole skill on its own. And I think what attracts us to gangster rap a lot of the times is the ability to relate towards what is being explained. When Ice Cube talks about today was a good day, that is a big relatability element to it. And so, not to be an old head about it, but like jumping down into what we liked about 4-2 and what we liked about G is that there's always been that relatability when, especially when you drop that special that we heard ESTG come up with before, and just seeing how everybody just was able to catch on to that and repeat it. It speaks to the fact that these guys clearly know how to be able to make music that people enjoy. And so when I see a pairing of this sort, it speaks to the genius and the brilliance that is Yo Gotti.
Word, word. Yeah, the label's going crazy. And it's just you never know when these type of collaborations are gonna work. When I'm mid listen to this, I texted you and I was like, bruh, this might be one of the hottest, pairings that we've seen in a minute. And we referenced Pooh Shiesty and Big 30. We referenced Durk and Vaughn. It's been a lot of pairings, right? Durk and Baby. And I'll put this album, especially as a project, being able to deliver on that pairing up there with a lot of the collab albums we've gotten recently.
Yeah, over Mozzie, Gunplay, even. I mean, and this is what you want to see. You want to see the hottest people making music together in this way. I've said Drake and Future, that was shot down very very quickly. But I could see how this could be considered a stronger offering, man. What the good thing of the great thing about this particular piece from these two, like you said, the styles are different, but you're able to enjoy both of their styles together at the same time, and they bounce off of each other so well. I think this playlist is put together quite fantastically in the pacing of it. I enjoy the way that it's even sequenced is the word. The sequencing of it, the audio experience of it is so specific, and it just slaps so hard.
Yeah, and that's the thing about being really like truly hot, right? Is that not a lot of artists are hungry and are able to catch a vibe off of being hungry, and that hunger translates, and they catch one. But to be able to catch one, and I'm thinking of 42 with a We Paid, right? Like to be able to continue to take that energy and create tracks that sound different, right? I didn't really get ear fatigue listening to this, and to the extent that I thought I would with two guys that make a very particular type of music. To be able to make tracks that sound different, to not run out of content, to not run out of different types of ways to approach a track, different pockets to find, different flows. That speaks to a longevity in the game that I hope that they're able to maintain. I really appreciate it. Like Ice Talk, I love even the beats are creative. The spacing, the moments of silence, man. I went from Ice Talk, Spin, Scratch Some, All Hundreds, Everybody Shooters too. Man, Never Scared. There's some heat here, man.
There's
Did
some
I say
heat.
all hundreds? Man.
There's
But
some heat.
go ahead.
I was 13 songs in before I even pressed skip, and I was like, this is absolutely insane. And ran it back again from the top just to continue listening to how each song, literally from track 1 to track 13, is pretty strong. That My Youngin is so strong. Free Zewski, hearing from Big 30, Free the Shiners, Spin, Never Judge You, Ice Talk, Dumb Shit, all dumb hard.
Yeah. So now, I held off. Now, Dugg versus ESTG. And I ain't even gonna make a case really for who I think is harder or who I think is better, I'm gonna tell you something that's even more controversial.
Hold on. It sounds to me like you taking me to homie court, and we want to try something where you take somebody to homie court.
All right. All rise. That Judge Mathis music up out of here.
Come on, Miles, roll with the punches.
I'm rolling with you. I'm rolling with you. All right, so
get that Judge Mathis music out of here.
but yo, I think the reason why ESTG, like, there's something about ESTG style that I really, really like, but I think realizing that to me, there's a lot of Sada Baby there. Helped me understand why I'm like, oh, that's why it don't hit like Dugg seems like original. When I think of Dugg, I think of Dugg, like his voice, his style. When I think of ESTG, I'm like, why doesn't he feel as original to me? And it's because when he really in his bag, there's a lot of Sada Baby there.
The question in hip hop that we ask all the time is it about who did it best or about who did it first? And if we have to take on that portion of hip hop, I can see the Sada Baby influences, but I don't think they are as I don't they're not as distracting. It's just not like I'm listening to Baby Keem and clearly hearing Kendrick. It's not like that. I think it's a little bit more distant than that. What I will say is that there are times where Dugg's delivery and his tone can be off-putting to me, where it's an acquired ear sort of elements, and I get that a lot with Future as well when he gets into his super melodic bag. Even with Durk, TBH is when things get to the melodic. When they take a super melodic, it becomes a bit difficult for me to listen to. And I think what I enjoy from G is that there's not a lot of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I feel you. I feel like that could be polarizing, and I feel like that's what I really like that aspect of Dugg. I really think he approaches tracks in a way that other people wouldn't approach him, and I think he leans into that drawl of his voice and like allows it to give tracks a little bit of edge. That just when it hits, that's it for me. I feel him that much more. This one is hard to even like put a score on, man. Like for what it is, I'm at 4.5.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at a 5 for it. No, I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm gonna slap a whole. I'm gonna slide a whole 5 on this official review, man. This to me is one of my favorite favorite mixtape that will come out for my 2 favorites, and they deliver on it. We gonna need a CMG group project. They got Mozzie over there. They got these two. What I was disappointed in this album, actually, that I wanted to say, no Black Youngster. How is there no Black Youngster on this album? How is there also no Yo Gotti on this album? You know, I found that to be quite peculiar. The Yo Gotti one, I could maybe there's a deluxe coming. Maybe there's a deluxe, and we'll get that.
I hope so. The other thing that I might add to it is this felt like it was both of them in the studio together. And so maybe it was an on-site thing. And if it wasn't like, we're going to send you this beat, you get to it wherever you at. Maybe it was we doing it with who's here. We getting it done. Because I did get that vibe. I didn't get a sent back and forth. I felt like they were really writing these in the studio. That's me. So man, maybe it's that. Put it on that. Last one's left. This one's steady in rotation. We know it's been a lot of music that's been coming out. We got to feed the Live Nation, man. We definitely coming back. What we got next week? We doing another double, right?
We're doing another double, and we'd like for y'all to be able to please let us know exactly what you want us to talk about. So hit us up on the DMs, comment on some of the stories that you see us posting up. We've seen that the community is growing. We know, shout out to our listeners on the SoundCloud stage. We see y'all clicking in. We appreciate y'all. Everyone that speaks to us outside of this podcast about the work that we're doing. Man, nothing feels, that's such a particularly good feeling when people get to, speak about what you've spoken about and extending the conversation past that. The family is the Live House family is growing.
Yes, sir. Speaking of extending the conversation. Speaking of the Live House family growing, please like, comment, hit that subscribe button for a player one time. You know what I mean? Just hit that, just ding that one time for a player. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate that. 7-5, man.
7-5.
That's
7-5. We
crazy.
know.
Yeah, man. We know. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, but you here rocking with us, man. If you hearing the soulful, sultry sounds of Chestnut Tones, that's my brother over there. You know what I'm saying?
Hello.
That's Big Beanie's way. And on this side, you know what it is. It's Young Hayes, Hazelnut Tones, Miles Xavier. I'm in the building, letting you know that this is a celebration of celebrating. This is a celebration of life. This is a celebration of how good it feels to be black. Don't it feel good, Way?
Double blacked out.
Yes, sir. The Black Album. And we hope it feels good to be you. We hope you find a dope album to put on and enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. Happy Easter. You know what I'm saying? Eat something with the fam. Hang out. Do y'all thing, man. It's all love, baby. Eat something delicious. Hug somebody you love. Like that. Peace. Water. We gone.
Yeah, I get that, but is we live though?